No. No.
Oh, this is tomorrow night's meeting. I was like, what?
So who else is
Tomorrow
like
night's agenda.
has failed in the area?
Did I been?
Yeah.
Who else's budget's been not passed?
You know?
Everybody or
I own.
are we unique?
Plainfield didn't pass twice, Griswold, didn't pass. We're on camera. I don't think Thompson passed.
We're not pressing North Stonington.
I don't know. There was another one that didn't know. I don't think they had theirs yet, or they're having it soon.
Which?
There's a lot of towns that haven't because,
They were waiting on the state.
no,
Right.
because they didn't pass. They didn't pass. Giselle probably knows the town because she's going through to get the tax bills out. And, the company that we use to do the bills said that they're having a, large number of towns that budget didn't pass, so they're trying to figure out the printing of the tax bills because some of them still haven't, passed the budget either, so.
I'm just trying to figure out what the correlation was with percentage increases versus pass versus no pass. So like, for instance, if the average was 3% and 2/3 of them fail, well, you know, it's not.
A lot of, well, yeah.
Yeah, we're live.
I'll talk about it during. You're on. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we haven't started it yet. So.
you.
I call. You're on camera. Order, please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Comments?
Have not.
So the question was, what towns passed and what towns didn't, with their budgets?
Right.
And I was saying, as far as I know right away, Plainfield, theirs failed. Griswold, Board of Ed failed, and I think Thompson, but I'm not 100% sure, but I know from Giselle's talking to the company that does our tax bills, because we're trying to, get the printing set to make sure they go out in time, that there's a lot in the whole state that didn't pass. And, I know, a lot of them had issues because they didn't have a reval. But because of the loss in revenue, with the, veterans exemption and, the legend was voted down, the motor vehicle, difference that they had to make up for that loss. And so on top of the loss in revenue and any increases in their budgets, they had, a 5% and up increase. It was a large, and I think, not 100% sure, but I think Plainfield was like 9% or something. Yeah. Ledger got voted down. Well, town budget was voted down. No, the town went past the school, the board of ed. Okay, one of them got voted down. Yeah. I'm just looking online here. So they had a lot of the towns that failed, they had a higher than normal, percent. Ours got even more confusing because we didn't have the reval too. So it made it, more challenging. Yeah. Because of the reval year just adjusts everyone's, real estate, it affects the property.
Well, one of the issues that we should address in the next public meeting is that for those people who are escrowing not only their property taxes, but their homeowner's insurance, that if we are successful and get a no tax increase passed, their mortgage could still go up.
Well, we're not, if
Because-
we say there's a no tax increase passed,
A
because
flat budget.
we're doing a flat.
If we're doing a flat budget, meaning that the amount of taxes that you're paying to the municipality are level to the preceding year. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
that. that their mortgage payment,
Telling me, because every time I say no taxes, she's like, don't say that because that's not true.
It's not your statements.
It's not
Yeah.
true, because of the reval, if you have a, you
But
have,
yes, you're right, the insurance rates can go up based
So-
on your section.
if the municipal expenditures are flat year over year,
Yeah.
your payments to the municipality are flat year over year. We're ignoring what the effect of the mill rate is.
Right.
Yes, your mill rate has been cut because of the revaluation. But your bill from your mortgage company could still go up. And that is outside of our control because your homeowner's insurance
Yeah.
is probably gonna go up 10 to
If your
15%. And we have no control over that.
right,
And what I've just come and found out because of my family's situation is that if you get a homeowner's increase in your property insurance and your roof is over 15 years old, you can't go out and get a competitive quote any longer. Because insurance companies will no longer quote on residences whose roofs are 15 or 20 years old in the state of Connecticut.
oh, wow.
So you're stuck
I just got one,
with that one company. I tried Liberty Mutual, tried another one, like, nope,
I tried Geico.
there you go.
I just got, honestly, mine just went down, because mine was going up $700, I'm like, this is crazy.
Mm.
So I went to Geico, and I have my car insurance with them. So I got $1,000 off my
How old is your roof?
20 years.
I'll give them a try. I was just turned down, I went to a brokerage firm, like, just can't quote. The Burns agency. No, the Andover, Merrimack, Mutual Park.
I called directly to Geico, well, I went online and I called them, got it.
Right. I will get back to you, but
And then I called
that
them on the
should
phone.
be something that we should be aware of. People come in and say, you told us it's gonna be a flat budget year over year, if we're lucky enough to get it passed. That there could be this other effect if you're property.
Which is completely out of our control.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And their assessed value on their house, if it went up, is not in our control either.
Yeah.
And that'll determine their tax.
Their homeowner's insurance,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's
Right,
outside.
so I see the point that you're making because Skip's house could have gone up more in assessed value than mine would have. So even though you would think that, things a level playing field and it's all gone up by the same amount. That in fact is not the case. Some people's houses could appreciate more than others.
That's how you want it.
They could live next to a blighted property, no, their assessed value.
Some assessments went down, some were, every assessment was different, so mine was at basically 50%. I know some people that, their houses aren't, on beach pond and very expensive houses that still went up quite a bit, like 67%. And you can't base the budget on the highest percentage rate out there. Because then you're cutting a huge amount out of the budget, which we just don't have to cut.
Okay. One of that's part of the problem that people looking at the valuation on their house going up a significant amount and not understanding that the municipal expenditures are remaining flat year over year.
That means things are being cut, because if your expenses are going up, the town's expenses are going up. And there's certain things you have contracted, you just can't cut, so that means other things, you have to go to other things that aren't contracted to cut. And you go lower and lower and lower on those things, and the other things keep going up. You gotta,
Well, that's
Like people
fundamentally the
off
problem
or-
the Board of Education is having is because so much of their expenditures are fixed overhead.
right,
Because
and
if you lose 3 students of regular education at $35,000 apiece, special ed is an entirely different story. If you lose 3 kids, your budget doesn't go down by $100,000 because if they're in 8th, 6th, and 4th grade, you're not firing one teacher. You just lost one kid in each grade.
Yeah.
So all the times in the past where we've kept the budget the same, we've had to cut in some places to do that. And we've done that, we've kept the budget the same a lot over the years.
and that's one of the reasons why too, is we've done a good job at increasing the revenue.
Yeah,
So we've been really working on trying to increase the revenue, so we're not increasing, so the budget expenditures might have increased, but we increased the revenue by the same amount to keep a flat tax. But the other side of it is the town is $2.5 million. That's your public safety, that's your public works, that's your elderly services, and that's all your town mandated stuff. That's all we have to work with.
Sure.
And there's 1.5 is probably mandated services, so there's very little amounts in there that are for other stuff that you can actually physically cut.
I think for 2.5 million, we do a
lot.
lot.
We do a lot, and you know, if we had to cut things, it's gonna be like, okay, we're going to be plowing less in the winter because how many things, those are the only places where we can cut.
And one thing people might ask, well, your budget's 2.7, but approximately, maybe a little less, 200,000 is like town aid road. We get 173,000 in revenue for town aid road, we have to show the 173,000 expense. Next year, we're getting 230,000, so it's gonna look like our budget's gonna go up by 50 grand. It's just by that money, and there's nothing we can do to change that. So it's gonna look right off the bat that we're going up 50 grand, but it's because you have to, if you put it in your revenue, you have to show the expense as well.
Right.
So, you're gonna have to explain that to you next year.
I'm not sure because I'm not connected to the chattering class in town. But I think part of it's also their resentment on wage increases. I don't know how you get people to understand that there are in every business key people that make things operate well and efficiently. And if you lose those key people, you can replace them with somebody who can fill a seat and shuffle paperwork, but they wouldn't necessarily be as effective or as efficient at their job. And we probably did a very poor job at explaining that to people. I mean, if we step back 4 to 6 years, we can remember a number of people complaining about the original increase that you took in your job when it went from part-time to full-time. But as you make the case, we also eliminated
Adding in road foreman as part of the official
eliminating
duties.
road foreman. People have selective memories and only want to remember what it is that validates their argument, which is natural. That's simply why we have political biases in this country. When people watch Fox or people watch MSNBC, they listen and only hear what validates their perspective. So I'm almost wondering if part of what we need to do is try and sell this budget to people. I mean, how many people are watching this right now? Other than the Foot Fetish Club.
We were talking
Yeah.
about, we've talked about this, and I think ahead of time too, I wanted to put more information about the salary study that we did on the website, so that it's out there for people to see and include all the job descriptions that we updated.
And to the right minds, that's valuable information, but those are the minority of people in
Right.
town. What most people, unfortunately, in this town are thinking about, well, they knew what the job was paying when they took it.
Yeah.
What,
So I think the argument to make there,
Planning on, when we get to the town budget, to talk about why we did the salary study, that we started doing it because the federal guidelines for salaries changed. And our salary positions were not gonna fall into that. They would have turned into hourly positions, which would have cost the town more money because those salary positions, if they turned into hourly positions as required for the federal guidelines, would have cost the town
I
more
hear what
money.
you're saying, but you have to remember from the 300 people that voted no versus the 100 people that voted yes, it's all gonna be, well, it's just all fun plan. So they don't hear that.
I think we need to
So what do
focus
you
on the
suggest?
argument. I think the argument we need to focus on for the salary piece specifically is yes, the reason why we did the salary survey, but if we're not paying a competitive wage, there are towns around us who are trying to pilfer whoever they can. And if someone's working here and making X amount of dollars and they're gonna go make 10K more working somewhere.
I got an email where if I went to from a town manager in a different town, and the salary for my position was double.
So we need to be able to be competitive in order just to get people to do the job. Because if Julie left because she got an offer of double her salary, how difficult is it gonna be to find a new finance manager at the rate that we were paying before the salary survey?
Sterling went through 4 in the last year.
And everyone thinks we're paying people like the top of the tier for their position, and we're not, as Julie just said, like, they're still getting paid twice as much other places.
I understand.
We picked salaries and wages that fit for what we can afford, even though people think that it doesn't look like you can afford it. When you compare it to other locations where it's
What we
Still-
need to remember though is that so many of the people that voted no are people that may have stopped working 15 or 20 years ago. And they're
Yeah.
thinking in price terms of what a dollar was worth in 2005.
Or what
What it's
a,
worth.
what a fair salary was
But would
15 to
you
20 years ago
recommend-
for a certain position.
Right, so what is your suggestion? I don't know what else that.
Good.
That if we are not paying a competitive wage, we are going to not be able to maintain the people we have in the positions we have. And
I'm,
then we will not be able to get people to backfill those
Yeah,
positions
the
when
other
they leave.
thing I'm.
I'm just wondering,
To
bullet-
Tracy,
They changed
bullet
the
points.
job.
my job, like finance department. 5 years ago. We weren't getting any investment income, so one of our priorities when we switched over to the new treasurer is. The whole finance department has been working on consolidating, bank accounts, and the whole group has been working really hard. We're paying for the finance department just in investment income, your taxes aren't paying for those people.
understand, and that generation of people
Same with
that
the
knew Rich
building.
Osgood though, remember him as being, a wonderful human being, which he was.
Yeah,
He came in and, he had 35
Yeah.
passbook accounts for all the different things that paid next to nothing. Granted, and I'm on a bank board of directors, we love people like that because they loan us money for nothing. We lend it to people and charge interest. And doing what we're doing now with the STIP fund and moving the money out from one bank to another bank and getting a more competitive rate helps to offset. And that's one of the things that people don't know because they simply think, well, there wasn't a Julie here before and the town treasurer was Richie and he was just
but there
making,
was me.
Not 20 years ago, there wasn't.
There wasn't me, it was outsourced. The town paid for somebody, the town paid for an auditor and a bookkeeper.
Okay.
So there was those positions, they were just different.
I'm-
We turned it to finance director, we stopped with the outsourcing and turned it into one position.
So what I'd simply say is that, I think this is the sum total of 10 years worth of upset that things have changed because the positions aren't all appointed now. And they're no longer elected and we used to be able to get our buddy in as, town clerk and and the way that things used to be. And this is kind of their way to basically say, no, we don't like it. So what I'm always thinking is, I don't know if it's on the town website, it's probably too late for a newsletter or something, but just to bullet point these things to explain to
And
people.
we are trying to.
We are
Yeah,
aware
we're
that people are upset and their expression of their upset is to vote against the budget. But we're only asking you to consider this is what has happened over the course of the last half dozen years or dozen years. That we no longer outsource these other things. We now do it internally. The people who are doing that have this past year generated $120,000 worth of investment income, which more than covers all the costs that we used to have previously.
That is
that-
part of the facts we're gonna send out in the presentation.
The part-time administration of town government that used to be the way it was run with a part-time first selectman and road foreman has changed over the course of the last 10 or 12 years. And it has made us more efficient because we have brought in X amount more money through grants, so forth, so on. It's being run much more effectively and efficiently than it has ever been in the past. And, one of the bullet points I think would simply be to say, yes, we got a grant for this senior van. We think this is a great thing, but we need to have a driver, the senior van. And if we can't pay a driver to drive it, we now have to give back this $150,000 bus. Who out there is going to be driving these people? And this is
Right.
part of the cost of having a community that's, desirable place to live in. So I just think that maybe the.
Well, there's also, we need to drill down on the specific examples,
Right.
like the senior van. What
Right.
was it costing us for the service that we were paying for prior to going down the route of getting the senior van?
Right.
To do that apples to apples comparison, this is how much it was costing us, and this is how much it's gonna cost us. The van was given to us via grant, and if we don't use it, it goes away. So basically, all we're doing is paying for the driver. So that amount of money, how does that compare to the service that we were paying for previously?
But we didn't have enough money to pay for the service previously because we only put 15,000 towards it and we ran out of them and we.
We ran out of the money before the year was up.
15,000 before the year was up. But it's a matching grant, we get reimbursed for it, but it's the more that it's used, the more it's gonna cost and it goes until we run out and can't fund it anymore. anymore. A lot of towns run out after like 5 months because it depends if all of a sudden they have an increase in ridership because it goes per ride.
Yeah.
And the rides are dependent on the locations of where they're going, and we're in Town, everything's far away. So the
Oh, no, I beg to differ. We're essentially like, it's 45 minutes, and wherever you want to go.
why we
Yeah.
had such a problem getting the senior transportation in the past was because
Key there is 45 minutes.
because it's run out of NECOG and it's run out of CCOG, and NECOG only does like the northern areas and CCOG only does the southern areas. We didn't have anyone that was taking people all over, so we started our own, which worked out well, but it's still,
Not enough.
yeah, not enough.
Still not enough. There was a huge demand for it. We did 169 and had to stop them because we.
So
ran out of
I would use those as examples of bullet points to talk about. And then the third and final one, because I think we were all surprised that the capital improvement program was voted down. That we cannot meet the fire department's request for funding. And that $200,000 that's coming out of the undesignated fund is not coming in. That's money that has already been taxed.
Yeah.
And has not been spent. And this is for the matching grant portion.
Yeah.
Of $1 million Congdon road improvement. You know, why wouldn't we spend $200,000 to get $1 million worth of road improvements? I mean, these are smart things to do. But you have to be able to explain to people so they don't think like.
$1 million, you're not gonna get $1 million to do that road ever.
Right, but the way I've just said it is the wrong way to say it, because if you tell somebody this is the smart thing to do, what they're gonna hear is.
You just called me dumb.
You just called me dumb because I don't understand this.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to explain to people, you know, we've examined, we understand people's concerns and we've examined the issues. And the reason why we're recommending these is because we are getting leverage. You know, we're getting bang for our buck. And we simply ask you to vote for these things, to trust that we've done the work to look into these things. And this is the most efficient use of the town resources. We appreciate these resources are limited in
How
scale.
much does it cost us for John?
John, so as he's our planner, he's our zoning officer, so we used to pay Pete to be the zoning officer. And he's the planner and he's doing all the grants and he's
Right, how much do we pay his firm? Because we're at
48,000 a year.
48. And how much does he get in just grant writing alone?
We're at like 8 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, there's a great example of leverage.
So there's your fourth bullet point, because what it is at the end of the day, people in their minds are just remembering, well, Pete Svinglis used to do this and, you know, he was just part-time. Yeah, I have no opinion about the man one way or the other, whatever we paid him. I'm sure John's getting more than what Pete got because it's 10 years later, but at the same time, in the function, yes, he's being paid more, but in that function as grant writer and planner, we've also got these other valuable, that would just be the sub bullet points, you know, yes, we recognize that people, you know, have these concerns.
That's a great idea, yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the things we're
Yeah.
trying to plan to do.
Yeah.
And try to get it out there earlier too.
And
And I just wanted to clarify one thing you said about taking away the money for the fire department, which we took away the proposed in our budget where we had the weekend staff. We took that away, but we still kept in, there's still increases in the fire department public protection, because we kept in the increase to the stipends, which the volunteers receive when they are hit certain qualifications or requirements and respond to calls. We kept that in there, and we kept in the paid day staff, from the Monday through Friday were part of the step increase for the salary study, so they're getting an increase as well.
And there is a grant out there that we're looking
That we're
into
looking into,
to fund the day staff on the weekend.
which will cover for 2 years, so if we get that, hopefully it'll cover the weekend staff for 2 years, but we have to work that in the budget eventually, because when that 2 years is over, we would have to pay for it. That's what we're working on for that.
we'll move on to the next.
And, yeah, and hopefully, we'll get that, committee together to help, help us figure out what to do with our
So
emergency services.
that would be my suggestion, bullet points with sub-bullet points.
Yeah.
Because I think it's not one thing. Yeah, maybe they're upset about the blade ordinance. Yeah, tried.
But we don't say anything else about that. That's, they've spoken, we move on.
And that's all we asked for.
Yep.
Or town speaker. And, God bless them. But this way you can simply refer to people. It's on the town website, just all, I think, 3 minutes, every 5 minutes.
The first thing like, I'm gonna start with is this budget, using money from the unassigned funds will level the budget to last year's. So at a,
And how close does that move us to the minimum? If we have to maintain a minimum percentage of our budget in the unassigned fund, correct?
yeah.
Was it
we're gonna
8 to
be
11%?
right at- Even might be a little bit below what we're supposed to be in there.
Okay.
So, so real estate wise, a number of people will see no increase. And they'll see a decrease in their car tax. So this budget actually forced for quite a number of people, they'll actually pay less tax this year because of their car tax. So they gotta remember, the reason why it's going up too is because it's all going to real estate.
Because the car check, they're switching how they assess the value of cars. And they're gonna be taxed at a 20.72 mill rate instead of the 29, so it'll be double.
So the car taxes for everybody should go down by 8 mils. You know, if your assessment, even if your assessment stayed the same, and because car taxes assessment not only went down, the mill rate's going down 8 mils. So your car taxes are going down. So, but it's gonna be those that got hit the hardest at a 60-70% increase on assessment. Those are the ones that, some of the, vehicle tax will help offset that increase, but you can't build a budget out to the highest increased person. We just don't have enough to cut the budget to do that. And the other side of it is the school, there's an MBR rule, minimum budget requirement. You cannot cut the school budget less than what it was the prior year.
I thought they got rid of that.
Not yet, I don't think so. I'll have to check that, I'll double check that.
Because it used to be if it was less, whatever you cut, you lost twice the amount in state aid. But I thought that had
If
gone.
you lose money in state aid, you can cut the amount of state aid,
Yeah. you can
but
go-
we didn't, they held us harmless, so we didn't get cut now.
Right. No. When I was on the Board of Education, it used to be that if the local district cut spending, you lost 2 for 1 in state aid by whatever you diminished your local spending by.
Last I knew of the minimum budget requirement stated that if you couldn't go below what the prior year was,
You know,
unless your revenue decreased.
I've seen the same problems up in New Hampshire when I read the paper up there. It's, the school budget's killing everybody. The number of students has declined. Why is it still going up? It's fixed costs.
It's easier
And contract.
infrastructure.
You know, one of the arguments I heard was, as long as your budget's going up, people shouldn't get raises. Well, you have contracts. You have to pay those contracts, and those contracts are raises. And it's going to go up. And if you state that, then something else has to be cut, and you're gonna get to the point where there is nothing else but salaries, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not possible.
Okay, so that would be my suggestion.
Okay,
Bullet points and sub-bullet points, and keep it simple, 4 things with some sub-bullet points. With specific things that touch on what everybody's collective concerns have been, salaries, position inflation, job.
But, yeah,
And it happened because, and this was the benefit of doing that.
But I think that it needs to be address the points of concern, but also separate set of bullet points for all of the efficiencies of return, such as all the banking stuff, how much revenue that brings in. John's firm, how much that brings in grant money, since we have dedicated grant writer.
Mhm.
So that way it is, we are trying to offset the town's budget and increase services by bringing in additional revenue other than taxation.
Yeah, there's more than one reason to the mill rate, it's not just the expenses, yeah, the revenue.
The final bullet point really has to be acknowledging to the community that we are aware that the economy is not yet in officially a recession. That we appreciate that that may be coming, and we will keep a sharp eye towards, watching expenditures going in the future. But at this point, this is the basic level, because things are going to get worse than they come.
Yeah.
We have no control of it.
As far as the budget goes for fiscal year 25-26, are there any more recommended changes to it, or are you good?
I'm fine with it. Skip, yeah.
I recommend the, Tracy and Julie's salaries not be cut. And I understand that you're going,
Do everything and I'm not.
no, I,
I don't agree, sorry, I'm fine. with it.
that's. No, yes, I know why you're doing it, and I'm not saying we have to redo the budget. This is more, I am stating my objection for the record that, yes. Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All right, so then on to the capital projects budget. I think we already covered all that too.
So did you do the motion just to approve it one time?
Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't make any changes. We approved it.
Did we actually approve the same one? I didn't know if we just approve it again.
Approve it again.
I make a motion that we approve the budget as proposed.
And then seconded.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to approve the budget, as presented. That was for $2,754,794.
Mill rate of 20.72.
3.7.
20.7.
Yep.
With a mill rate of 20.7. So we're moving it to the town meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, it's moved to the town meeting.
I would also make a suggestion that one of the bullet points ought to be every time we do a referendum, another $5,000 out of the town's coffers. So that people just understand there's a cost to this.
Yeah.
Because I think
So next year, there'll be a line item under registrars for referendum.
maybe for next year's budget, yeah, but I'm just saying for a bullet point now so that people begin to understand, like, we know you're not happy. We're also taxpayers. But every time we go back to do this, I mean, there's how much, yeah, if we have to get rid of the van driver, that's
You're
fine,
gonna
we'll use
pay
the
for it.
van. So we're gonna save $20,000, paying on the van, but we've now spent $10,000 on referendums. And by the way, we just lost $154,000 van. So how many more times do you want to do this? There is a,
Cost.
there's a cost to decide that you want to, stick it in the man's eye.
I make a motion to approve the capital projects budget as presented.
Second.
200,
20,
so.
and move to referendum. Not referendum, to town meeting. Sorry, town meeting, not another 5K.
What?
Nope, town meeting.
And
No.
that also might be another bullet point in your thing. When I was on the Board of Education, there was tremendous amounts of grief that we used to get with the White House that, you started moving the Board of Education into. And originally that building was going to be torn down because it was a temporary. People are thinking, what do they need new computers for? How old are the computers? How old is the software? You need to explain to people so they
Right.
understand.
Well, the computers in this budget is the firewall, is 10 years old, it's on its last leg, it's gotta be replaced. So that's.
Protecting everyone's privacy.
And the cybersecurity, yeah, it's, so we don't get hit by cybersecurity, and then you really,
With a ransom.
Ransomware. Privacy's less of a concern. Doge already has it all.
So that's
So the
the
Russians.
capital project budget. So we made a second and
And I move to town meeting.
forgot, it's like it's separate.
No, for the capital project. We haven't approved that motion though.
Okay. So all in favor of approving the capital project amount I don't know what the town meeting, it's all going to the town meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. for $220,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now the call to town meeting, Town of Allentown legal notice warning of a special town budget meeting Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. This public meeting will be held in person and will be live streamed on the YouTube channel. Town of Allentown CT government, eligible residents and electors must be present in person to participate and vote. The electors and citizens qualified to vote in the special town meeting are hereby warned that the special town budget meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at the Valentine Elementary School, 195 Main Street, Valentine, Connecticut at 7 p.m. for the following purposes. 1, to appropriate the funds necessary for the Board of Education budget for the fiscal year 25-26 in the amount of $7,399,999. To appropriate the funds necessary for the Board of Selectmen's budget for the fiscal year 2025 to 2026 in the amount of $2,754,794. To appropriate the funds necessary for the capital projects budget for the fiscal year 2025-2026 in the amount of $220,000. Dated this 9th day of June, 2025 at Valentine, Connecticut. Need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
So,
Motion's been made and seconded to approve, the special town meeting, call. Any discussion?
Nope.
Nope. All in favor?
yeah,
Aye.
Opposed, carrying none is approved. And we're just gonna clarify on this when I post it, that the doors are gonna
Doors
be
open at 5:30.
5:30, so people, come and, check in early so we can start close to 7. And once you check in, you can't leave. So if you come early,
pitch motel.
you have to, stay.
I make a motion to adjourn.